Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to finally review the 120 Brutfuner pencils. Now these are the square barrel pencils, not the round ones that are circling about. And these are their oily pencils. I always emphasize that because that's what it says on the box and I just can't get over it. So if you want to see these unboxed and swatched, I actually have a first impressions video of these posted back in February. So you can go there, I'll do an unboxing, I'll kind of show you how the packaging comes and all that. This is my actual review, so we're going to go through the nitty-gritty. Yes, there are tons of reviews out there right now, but I wanted to get my own review out there because I do think it is good if you're researching or thinking about buying a new pencil to get multiple opinions. My opinion might not be the same as every colorist. It might be somewhat similar to some. You never know. So this is solely my opinion. This is not the 100% hard fast rule by any means. And equally, while I give this review, please keep in mind everyone has their own coloring style, preference, what have you. So what works for me may not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. I always like to put that disclaimer out there just so you can keep that in mind. So I did buy these in February and it took me till July to review these. That is because I am no longer belting out reviews lickety-split. Does that mean my reviews are going to be late to the game? Probably. But I've put a lot of research and time into them. I've played around with them a lot more. Back in the day when I used to do reviews, I would swatch them and, swatch them off camera, and I would have a review up within a week. I don't feel you can test a pencil in a week. If you're rushing through it, you're just not really giving it its attention. Now, that said, there's people who have done that, and there's nothing wrong with theirs. I just can't personally rush through in a week because I like a job, kids. I just don't have time. So mine take a little longer. I know a lot of you are waiting for my 520 Brutfuners, which I just streamed. I will be working on that. No worries. You won't be waiting 5 months. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in. First things first. Again, swatching and first impressions are on my channel. I'll make sure the card pops up, in the corner up here. My tin is one of the tins that came damaged. Now, not everyone got a damaged tin, like mine here took a beating. And then also I had the dreaded, when you opened it, they were all moved around. My tin is actually so dinged up, it doesn't open very easily. I have not put them in a case yet, and this is another reason I like to take my time with reviews. You can tell these have all been used pretty well. If you watch my swatching and first impressions video, you'll notice where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm missing one. No, it's just the stupid way they have these laying in the case. Don't get me started on that. But they were all here in the end. These are incredibly flimsy trays. I mean, look at them bend as I'm pulling them out, but also most of them have lost their little strings here. They've popped right out. I could push these back through and tie them. I'll probably put these in a case now that I've used them and decided I'm obviously going to keep them. Can't return them now. But let's grab one that's easier to see. So these are a square barreled pencil. They have a matte painted finish, no dipped end, so your core is exposed. The core is 3.3 millimeters, not shabby. It's pretty competitive with what's out there. And then overall, this pencil is 7.2 millimeters in diameter. They don't tell you this on Amazon. Their website is completely useless. I actually tried to go research it myself. I thought I was the only one struggling, and then I looked at Harry, from the Art Gear Guide, and he had the same issue, so I'm not alone. funny enough, these 120 squares aren't even on the Brutfuner website. They just have their round barrel ones. I don't know what's up with that. They all come with a number printed in gold and impossible to read unless you catch the right light. The name is in Chinese, however, there are a few colorists now who have gone about and translated the names if you care to use them. I really don't care. It actually saved me time with swatching. I just know that I need to get number 77. So if I ever do a color along with these guys, it's just the number. That's all you're getting out of me. But I know Pamela's passion for pencils, I think she was the first to translate, and then a few others have done so since. I have not yet put these in color order. I will when I put them in a case. But that said, let me get the swatches out. Okay. Swatch-wise, that's why I'm saying they need to be put in color family order. They started well. I mean, they even went in rainbow order, which is rare. Most pencils do not. They start with yellow. They started with red. Love it. So yeah, they went red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then they started deviating and then just kind of went all rando. Some of these I would have, moved up more towards the red violets and whatnot. So I do need to do some tweaking here to my colors, basically. But the color range itself, for 120 pencils, this is honestly not shabby. I am quite impressed at the color array. They even included some French and warm grays and cool grays, which is impressive considering this is a 120 set. You tend to not get that many grays in 120 and 72 count sets, but they made room. Loads of skin tone colors, which were great. And I will show you, I have done a portrait in these, so it is equally important. Loads of greens, I mean, holy moly. Great selection of blues. I actually really like their blues. I do feel some of these reds were kind of a little too close for comfort, and they could probably have done away with some of those and changed it up. Same with these two oranges here. They are practically the same freaking color. These two yellows are so close, they could have changed that out. So those are just a few of the gripes, I have. But this is a budget pencil, guys. So I can't pick on them too much. Now, if this was polychromos, I'd be a lot more critical. That said, for a budget pencil, that is a killer range of colors, and these are oil-based, so keep that in mind. If you want to layer or learn to play with oil-based pencils, you have a great set of pencils, including light blues. A lot of sets ignore the light blues because they're like, well, we don't have the room. This one has a light blue, teals, everything. So I was pretty impressed with that. I will say they're grays. They have a few dark ones here, but that's it. But really nothing glaringly bad other than the two that were kind of similar and that. So those are the swatches, just to keep in mind. So yes, the square ones come in 72 and 120. Please do not confuse these for the 180 pencils with the black barrel. They are two different pencils entirely, not the same thing. Also, these are not exactly the same as the round barrel ones, which I swatched not too long ago. I'll leave a card up above somewhere in the video for my 520. So those 520 are like the OG of Brutfuners. I'm still doing some research on those myself. These appear to be like kind of like a nostalgia collector's thing. The translated names from these and the numbers do not match up with the round barrel ones. I have triple checked that. So they don't match up. However, these do feel a lot like those round barrel ones. The not black barrel, but the regular round barrel ones. It's very confusing, I know. This is the problem with budget pencils. And also this is a brand that does the white labeling. So those black barrel pencils, I believe it's Shuttle Art and Sioux Color that are all the same pencil. So you have to be wary about that. And that is another reason I took so long to review these. I wanted to see if they actually stuck around. They popped up in February. I snagged them. And then every colorist in the world was buying them also. So they were sold out for a very long time, in and out of stock. I was kind of weary that this would be one of those ones that would be there for a couple months and then gone. And with their website being, very unhelpful, I had no clue if these square barrels would stick around. In fact, I know a few people who have bought extra sets because they're afraid they'll go away. I might actually purchase an extra set. But overall, they've been around for the last 5 months, so that's a good thing. Will these be here 5 years from now? I don't know. There's another budget brand that makes oil pencils, Shapir Farbin, but that is a company that has actually been around for a while, Shapir Farbin themselves. They do watercolors, they do their pencils. They've been around long enough that their brand is pretty established, whereas Brutfuner is not, and they're not even sold by Brutfuner on Amazon. It's by some odd Chinese company that I can't even pronounce. So these may not be here a year from now. Who knows? If you're watching this a year from my post date and you're looking at this, then maybe they are. Who knows? All right, so we looked at the pencils. Let's talk about performance. I, as usual, do my pencil review chart. I have changed it up a little bit from maybe how you guys remember it. So yes, we are talking about the 120 square oily pencils, but this will apply to the 72 count minus some colors. So I used number 10 for layering, and that's just because I wanted to test out this reddish pink color they had. So each circle represents how many layers of pencil. Now, oil-based pencils should be a layering pencil. You should be able to continue to add layers. Wax-based, not always the same thing. So with one layer, we have quite a bit of tooth still showing, but great coverage and pretty good pigment. 2, you don't see much of a difference. 3 is when you start to see more coverage. 4 and 5, obviously more. However, if you take a look at 5, I could get easily 2, 3, 4 more layers. And this is all incredibly light pressure, which I will tell you right now, I rarely use. But I like to do this because for those of you who like to layer, you need to see how it layers. Now, pressure. This is important because everyone's coloring style is different. Same with pressure. My light pressure may not be your light pressure. We all push at a different strength level. That said, this is my light pressure, and this is the coverage I get with number 110. Medium pressure, you still have some tooth, but it's not too bad. Heavy pressure performs a lot better. There still is some tooth showing. With the polychromos, I could, with heavy pressure, cover that completely. I could do that with medium pressure on a Prisma, but Prismas are wax, so that's not fair to say. So now, these tests I like to do on camera with you, so we'll get to those in a second. Something I did add was tan-toned paper. I've been coloring a lot more on tan-toned paper, so I wanted to see how these looked on tan-toned paper. I took some primary colors, and then I also took just some random colors and just kind of tested them out on the paper, just so we could see. So, for example, 076. 076. Okay, so here's 076. I'm going to zoom you guys in a little to see this better. Okay, so 076 on white paper versus 076 on tan-toned paper. It's really hard to get those right next to one another, isn't it? But as you can see, it's a lot brighter than the tan-toned. 86. Okay, so 86 here on the white paper versus 86 here. They're actually really close, so that's pretty good. So if you do tan-toned paper a lot, I highly suggest that you at least swatch a couple and just see how they look. Not all colors are completely different, but it's still something you will notice there's a slight variation. So black paper, this test is, I want to see the opacity of the white, and I always compare it to a Prisma white. I'm not comparing it to a Polly's or another oil-based white, because when I'm talking a white pencil, I want something that does what a Prismacolor pencil does. These aren't bad, but they're not competitive with the Prisma. And that is, of course, they are Prisma's wax. These are oil. That said, the Polychromos white does better than this as well. But then again, Polychromos is not a budget pencil. You got to keep that in mind as well. So if it were to come down to which white would I use, if I needed a white, I would break out my Prisma. Yes, you can use a Prisma white on oil-based pencils. So no worries there. All right, the smudgy test. I always like to do this on camera. I think it's more fun. This is basically, do these smudge? You know, most oil-based pencils do not. That's one of their perks. Wax-based, on the other hand, say Prismacolor, will whoop all over your page. So, will the Brutfuners smudgy? And I had to pick a color that would smudge. Now, I'm using heavy pressure with my hand, and we are getting a little bit of a smudge, but that took heavy pressure and quite a bit of pushing. Now, if I were to just use a light pressure and brush across it, there's no smudge. So that took a lot of effort. Now, if I did this with a Prismacolor, totally different thing. But again, Prismacolor is a wax. Okay, erasability. Here is why I like to always test this. Oil-based pencils are much better at erasing than a wax-based pencil. Brutfuners, I have noticed, are a pretty soft oil-based pencil. If you're comparing them to like a Polly's, these are way softer than a Polly's. Maybe that's why they call them oily. But that said, I still want to see. And I picked a highly pigmented color on purpose. I want to see how it stains the paper. Get my brush. All right. So it will erase, it lifts well, but see, in this case, I have a bunch of purple to cover up. That said, let me grab a color out of my dilapidated case. Let's just pull something at random. 46. Now, I didn't use, or I didn't damage the tooth of my paper. So see, I erased it, and I covered it with a new color. So that is a good sign. Some wax-based ones really hold on and will not let go. All right, blending. I like to always test blending. I'm gonna zoom out just a little so my camera doesn't zoom in and out, but I wanna see how they perform with different blenders. I did create my own little 3-color blend, just mashing together 3 blues. They did all right, layering on top of one another. These two did not like each other, but they weren't the same color family, so that was more my problem. So the Caran d'Ache Full Blender is a unique blender. One, this entire thing is usable. Like, there's no wooden barrel with a core inside. This whole thing is a blender. So I always like to see if it smooths out the tooth. So I pressed hard and went light. As you can see, there's tooth showing through. I want to know if this blender is going to take away the tooth and give me a nice smooth finish. I will link in the description below the paper I'm using, because that will also change the outcome. I use a much smoother paper, so you do need to keep that in mind. But you'll notice the tooth is gone. So it works great with the Caran d'Ache. I already knew it did though, because I used it on a project, but had to show you. All right, same thing. I like to do 2 different tests with the Prismacolor Blender. So you can use a wax-based blender on an oil-based pencil. There's no rules here. 2 ways I like to test it. 1, I want to see if I can cover the tooth. 2, I want to see if I can pull these colors together and cover that up. So we'll start with this one. because with, like, say, my Prismacolors, I can pull the color and move the color. Now, wax-based pencils will always move more pigment around than an oil-based. See, that didn't move much at all. It just kind of flattened out. Now over here, as you can see, I have my tooth there. And I'm not using odorless spirits because I don't tend to use those a lot. I try to avoid them when possible. I want a pencil to blend on its own without me having to inhale mineral spirits. So this actually went okay. But if I were to pick a blender for this brand of pencil, because the color dulls out so much with that Prisma, I would actually stick with the Caran d'Ache. Just because the Caran d'Ache blender, in my opinion, tends to work a lot better anyway on oil-based, but that's just me. All right, so how much do these cost? Actually, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about performance. So I have colored with these, and I have done two extremes of coloring. First of all, I colored a portrait. Portrait coloring and color book coloring are two different beasts entirely, and I feel it is important to test these on both, because if you want to use these pencils for something like hair or skin, it's kind of important to know how they perform versus just an ordinary coloring page. So when it came to the skin, like I said, they have a great array of skin colors. I was pleasantly surprised at how these worked. I do share the skin combo on my Instagram. Now the blue hair, I actually did an entire tutorial on my channel. You can watch it. I'll maybe possibly remember to put a card in the corner. So this is where I found that the softness of these Brutfuners failed when it came to portraits. So your average oil-based pencil, say like a Polychromos or even a Shapir Farben, they're hard. That's kind of what oil pencils are known for. That's why they're pretty popular when it comes to making hair. They hold an incredibly sharp point. They don't dull out. Now, these were incredibly soft. It's one thing I do love about the Brutfuners. They're creamy. They're a very creamy oil-based pencil, which is rare, especially if you were to go from polys to these, you'd be like, holy moly. So, that said, these dulled out incredibly fast while doing this hair. I sharpened so much that all blues used in this are about halfway down, because you need a very sharp point to pull off the flicks of hair like this. So when it comes to doing portraits, I do not enjoy the Brutfuners for hair. Definitely not for hair. You will go through a ton of pencil, like this one. Like I said, I went through a ton of pencil to do one head of hair. Now say I needed to go and use those same blues for another picture. I don't have a lot of blue left. So that is something to keep in mind. Are you going to use these for portraits or regular coloring? So if you're going to use them for regular coloring, I did just recently do this one with the Brutfuners. I have some other pages I've kind of dabbled around, but this was one where I did all Brutfuners minus the background. I tested their blendability. I did use the Caran d'Ache blender on here. I was playing around with leaf combos, blueberries, wood grain, everything I could think of. I tried to use at least a couple pencils from each color family as well. And I will say they performed amazingly well on the paper that comes in this Clara Markova book. It's a smooth cardstock, my typical favorite type. Would I say that they performed like a polys? In this instance, I actually would probably enjoy these more than the polys because they are so creamy, but they still layered up like an oil-based pencil. There's something about it that only once you have done something in wax and something in oil, you can understand. But you can see the way they layer, and instantly I could look at a page and go, oh, that was an oil-based pencil. Oh, that was a wax-based. These layered up very well. I was very impressed. I had a load of fun. I mean, the colors are very, very vibrant. I mean, these blueberries are freaking adorable. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed these for regular coloring. Portraits, I do not, because they are too soft. Now for the skin, they would be great. I actually am not a fan of using my polychromos on skin because they're so hard and I hate layering that much. So if you want to use them for skin, you could, and then just use maybe a harder lead pencil for the hair. I just personally, after doing this hair, that's when I realized, ooh, these are not going to work well for that. But that's okay. When I do portraits, I continually swap between brands, so it's not like you have to use your Brutfuners to do a whole thing. Okay, let's go to cost now. So back when I bought them in February, they were $30.98. So as of today, or the day I'm filming it, because this may not post today, July 5th, they are $25.49. They have dropped pretty good in price, but here's the deal. Often these have a coupon. I've seen them drop even below $25 with a 10% coupon. So I would keep an eye out for that, but that said, you are paying 21 cents a pencil. Now, for a budget pencil, 21 cents for just per pencil, that is really good. However, you cannot buy these open stock. So when you want to replace a certain color, you need to either buy the 72 set if it's in there, or repurchase an entire 120 set. So say I just needed this number 46 and it wasn't in the 72 count set, I am paying $25 to replace this. Now granted, I'm getting replacements for all 120, but that is something to keep in mind. So anytime I buy budget pencils, I actually strive to use every single color in there, whereas others where I know I can get them open stock, I'll favor a color or two. However, here I can't do that because I will run out of my favorite cream and have to spend a bunch of money to buy that cream pencil. This is one of the big drawbacks to budget brands. Some budget brands are starting to come out with open stock to accommodate that. Even Arteza has, although I would not pay the price they're asking for their open stock pencil. But that is one of the downfalls of a budget pencil. So I do plan to do a comparison video of these versus Sapphire. Will I do a comparison of these to polychromos? No. And the reason for that is that's just not fair. Polychromos have been around for years. They have perfected their craft. They are a pencil that is well known. They have so much, more to offer than a budget pencil. And it's just not a fair comparison. Because like I said, doing a portrait, I did several portraits with polychromos for hair, and if you tell me to pick between this and Polly's is going to kick their butt every time. So I am going to do a comparison, when I get the time, of these versus Sapphire. I think that is the fairest of comparisons. I will also do a comparison of these versus the 520 Brutfuners with the round colored barrel. Of course, please keep that in mind. There's 520 versus 120. But what is my final opinion? I definitely think these are worth the money. Like I said, it's 20-something cents a pencil. You are getting a killer array of colors, and they blend together beautifully. I didn't even look at my swatch chart. I just grabbed 3 blues that looked good and tried to put them together just to see if it would work. They did. They obviously have an incredible layering potential here. Now, when it comes to pressure, you are, like I said, because these clearly have that layering potential, even with heavy pressure, you have some tooth showing. But of course, you do have the Caran d'Ache blender that can make that tooth just disappear. Ta-da! So, always keep that in mind. They only smudge if you put an enormous amount of effort behind it. They erase and allow you to cover well. The colors still look great on tan toned. They worked great with the Crayon Dash blender. I don't think they're made well for the Prisma blender. I don't have the Derwent blender. I know I need to get on the Derwent train. Now when it comes to the white, I'd rather just break out my Prismacolor white and forget about this one. In fact, I have not used this one at all. I just don't find it doesn't work well as a blender. It's pretty flat. So yeah, that's where it lands. But if you're looking for a, you want to dip your toes into oil-based pencils or oily pencils, then this is probably a good starter set. I still also recommend Farben. They have come down in price. However, Brutfuner has a bigger set of pencils while Farben does not. I also feel because of that you're going to get better colors out of these, at least until Farben possibly releases a larger set. But those are both great options. Now, I'm not going to tell you, yes, you must buy these, you should buy these. Hopefully you'll watch my review and you can decide for yourself if you like them. Now, would I buy these again? Yes, because I do enjoy using them. I will not use them for hair unless one of you guys have requested it on my hair tutorial series. I will power through. I actually have quite a few Brutfuner requests. But I actually enjoy coloring in books with these. I'll probably use them this month on one of my pages. And for that price tag, especially when that coupon hits, you really can't beat that. And they've been pretty consistently in stock now, so that I feel confident enough to put this review out there and you guys not be like, oh, they're sold out now, like they were back in February. So I'm actually going to purchase a second set soon because I blew through so many of my blues. I'm just waiting for that coupon to pop, but even then 25 bucks is incredibly cheap for a 120 oil pencils, which is rare. Budget wax, I could see at that price. Oil, that's very impressive. If you have the 120 Brutfuner square oily pencils, I'd love for you to leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree. Like, have you done some hair with them? Did you have the same issues I did? Lots of sharpening. They also do not layer up well for hair compared to some of my more preferred, like the Derwent Pro Color and Artists and Polychromos. They really struggle in that department. However, with coloring, which I think most of you watching this are considering these for, let me know your opinions on just general coloring. And, if there's certain papers you find they work better in, or have issue with. I can say I have tried these in Create Space paper. I did not enjoy it. While they are soft, they are oil. So you should probably scan, reprint on a paper that's smoother or something you like and go from there. But on this cardstock here and in Johanna Basford books, they perform really well. But yeah, I would love to hear your guys' opinions on the Brutfuners, if you own them, if you've colored with them, if you've returned them. I know there have been a few people who got some bad batches where they constantly shattered on them or broke and they had to either sharpen away till they got to a solid core or just return them. I didn't have that issue, but considering how banged up my box was, I thought for sure I would have some broken ones. So that is something to keep in mind. But thank you guys for watching. I do apologize this review took so long. I had been on the fence whether I would bother, and actually doing this tutorial is kind of what prompted it, because I was like, you know what, I have finally used it in coloring and in trying to do a realistic portrait, and that helped me really decide that I think it was time to get my review out there and kind of share my thoughts. So yeah, until next time guys, take care.